Gilbert Arenas drops a semi-bomb, and I'm here to break it all down. All that and much more on the Knicks Digest. Alright guys, it's your boy Dario from Knicks Digest. So Gilbert Arenas a few days ago on his show, Gil's Arena, had a segment talking about when LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, when they went to Miami Heat. But Gilbert Arenas kind of dropped a bomb talking about how it was definitively true how them three wanted to come to the Knicks. I feel like LeBron's the decision now is like a whole bunch of urban legends as far as the teams that he was supposed to go to. Now, there's always been that rumor that LeBron actually wanted to come to the Knicks, and all of us have heard that. But I don't know, Gilbert Arenas kind of just saying it on the show kind of so nonchalantly. I feel like why isn't this a bigger news? He said that LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh definitively wanted to come to New York together, but James Dolan, of course, messed it up because he offered that money to Amare Stoudemire, and then once Amare Stoudemire came to the Knicks, they obviously didn't want to play with Amare, so then they had to figure out something else, which led him to call Mickey Arison, who I think is still currently the owner of the Miami Heat, and he figured it out, cleared enough money to get not even just LeBron, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade. He was able to figure out to get Mike Miller and Udonis Haslem to join the crew as well. But going back to the Knicks, my mind is still kind of like, wait, what? Like, it was 100% true that those three players wanted to come to the Knicks. Yo, what would have happened to the Knicks if LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, I know Chris Bosh was an amazing player at the time. He was probably top 10, top 15 player in the NBA at that time. But Dwayne Wade and LeBron James were top 5. What the hell would have the Knicks history have been if LeBron James and Dwayne Wade came to the Knicks? Now, the first season of the Heatles, that was, I think, kind of Dwayne Wade's last fully healthy season when LeBron was his teammate. And there's been a lot of conversations looking back at the Dallas Mavericks final series that Dwayne Wade was actually the better player. And kind of thinking about it in real time right now, Dwayne Wade was the better player because LeBron James, at that point of his career, he was still kind of figuring out what type of player he was. I mean, for God's sake, he had JJ Barea guarding him and he couldn't take advantage of it. LeBron James did not have a post-up game at that time. And that's what the Dallas Mavericks, coached by Rick Carlisle, but that team was stacked with veterans. We had Jason Kidd, Tyson Chandler, Dirk Nowitzki, JJ Barea, Corey Brewer, Sean Marion. Like, the team was stacked with veterans. So they knew how to play LeBron James. They knew that he wasn't a fully polished player yet. So they knew the things that he had problems with, and they just completely exposed all of it. But going back to the comparison of LeBron James and Dwayne Wade actually was the better player in that series. And for the first season of the Heatles connection, Dwayne Wade was actually the better player. Now, after the first season, after they lost to Dallas in the finals, literally the next, 5-6 years, even when LeBron was not on the Miami Heat anymore, LeBron was definitively the best player in the league, and it wasn't even a question. Yeah, they might have given out MVP trophies to everybody else, but that's kind of like what the NBA does. They gave out MVPs. Like, perfect example is MJ in the 90s. Before he retired, like, MJ could have got the MVP every single season, but then there were seasons where Charles Barkley won it. There were seasons where, and of course, Karl Malone won the MVP as well. So the NBA, they kind of do that. Like, they kind of spread the love around, which the same thing kind of happened with LeBron. Like, LeBron could have got the MVP 4 or 5 straight seasons, but you got Derrick Rose winning, you got KD winning, you got Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Giannis. You got a whole bunch of different players winning the MVP trophy when LeBron could have won it for 5-6 seasons straight. Now, it's kind of hard to just like plug in the history of the Heatles and kind of plugging it in with the New York Knicks. So the Heatles, they lost in the finals the first year, but then after the first year, they beat Oklahoma City, and then they beat San Antonio Spurs, and then they lost to the San Antonio Spurs. So out of the 4 finals trips, they were able to win 2 NBA championships, which in my opinion is underachieving. They should have at least won 3. But it's kind of hard to just plug in that history with the New York Knicks. What I'm basically saying is what happened with the Heatles in Miami was going to happen with the Knicks. Like, you can't say that if LeBron, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade came to the Knicks, they were going to go to the finals the first year, lose, go to the finals the second year and the third year, and win both of those seasons and then lose in the fourth season. Like, it's kind of hard, and the Eastern Conference at that time was and forever will be the weaker conference between the two. But at that time, you had the Indiana Pacers, which were probably the only team that was really a challenger to the Miami Heat. There was that one season where Derrick Rose won that MVP, who still is the youngest MVP to ever win it. But after that one season, then Derrick Rose completely just, his body just gave up. Multiple knee surgeries, multiple knee injuries. That's an amazing what if. If Derrick Rose was able to stay healthy and that Chicago Bulls team with Boozer, Noah, Rose, Luol Deng, like I really wonder how long, how many seasons they might have been the number one challenger towards the Miami Heat and maybe even going to the finals one season or maybe a couple seasons. But going back to the Eastern Conference, like besides that one Derrick Rose season where they went to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Miami Heat and they lost in 5, the only other team that I can think about was the Indiana Pacers. That was a young Paul George, Lance Stevenson, David West, Roy Hibbert, George Hill, I believe, was on the team. That was a stacked team, but then Paul George ended up breaking his foot in that Olympic scrimmage game in the summer, and then that pretty much just kind of like just erased any hopes of the Indiana Pacers really contending against the Miami Heat. Us signing Amare Stoudemire at that time, I was excited. He was a certified all-star, and we haven't had it at that time. We haven't had an all-star on the team since I don't know when. Before Amare Stoudemire came to the Knicks, the players that we had Stephon Marbury, Jamal Crawford, Eddie Curry, Steve Francis. We even had T-Mac for a season when he was completely washed up. Like the Knicks at that time, like they were looked at as a joke of an organization. And even though Amare Stoudemire, when he did sign with the Knicks, there was a lot of talk about his legs and his knees. He already had a microfracture surgery on his knee. So there was a little bit of skepticism about if Amare can hold up. But if you're looking at it from the standpoint of like, yo, we just need somebody. We just need somebody that we can point to and being like, hey, we have this player that we can at least build off of. And that's what the Knicks were able to do. We were able to sign Amare. And before Carmelo forced his way to get traded to the Knicks, Amare was the guy in New York. Amare was putting the team on his back, putting the organization on his back. I believe he might have had like 8 or 9 straight games of 30 points, which was a record at the time that he broke. I think Patrick Ewing held the record, or maybe another player. I can't remember specifically. But before Melo forced his way to come to the Knicks, and Donnie Walsh, I believe, was a GM at that time, Donnie Walsh didn't need to make that trade. Carmelo Anthony was going to be a free agent at the end of that season, so Carmelo Anthony could have easily came to the Knicks, where we would have still had all those players. We wouldn't have to give up a Timothy Mozgov, a Wilson Chandler, and Raymond Felton as well. Me personally, if you guys have watched me since I started on this YouTube channel, like you know my feelings about Melo. I wasn't a huge fan of his tenure with the Knicks. I think he could have done more. But going back to the whole LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh coming to the Knicks, Gilbert Arenas so nonchalantly saying that on his show, I don't know why people aren't talking about this. Him saying that he knew definitively LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh wanted to come to New York. He was a player in the league at that time. And as we all know, players talk. And the players, they share information, and they look like they have their guard less up. So if Gilbert Arenas knew that LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh wanted to come to New York, then I kind of taken his word for it. And of course, in traditional Knicks fashion, we didn't end up making it happen. But hey, now we're here. We got Jalen Brunson, who in my opinion is a top 10 NBA player. Bleacher Report put out that article, I believe it was last week, putting him at number 10, even though it's kind of low. But I still respect it. As long as Jalen Brunson is getting his name in the media articles, I'm going to be happy. But that's it for today's video, guys. Leave it in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about this. Did you guys see that episode of Gil's Arena when Gilbert Arenas just said that? Because when I was watching that episode, I was like, wait, what? I had to pause it and rewind it like 3 times. And then in my mind, I was just going over everything, what could have happened, maybe a championship. LeBron James maybe even might have retired as a Knick. I don't know, man. The possibilities are endless. But I should mention before I close out the video, there's still a possibility that LeBron might come to the Knicks. Now, Bronny James, he's still in the draft, and the Knicks have a pick in this NBA draft, and Bronny James is projected to go late in the first round, maybe even second round, and you never know. He might land at the pick where the Knicks have, and if the Knicks pick Bronny, LeBron James have said it, he's put it on wax that whoever drafts Bronny James, he is going to play for that team. So, again, we'll see what happens. The Knicks history with LeBron James forever being linked. This is like one of the things that's like one of the storylines that's always like in the undercurrent of NBA news. Like LeBron James being linked to the Knicks is always going to be there for some reason. But again, we never know. That door is not closed. It's still maybe a crack open, and we'll see what happens with this NBA draft. But that's it for today's video, guys. Thank you for checking it out. Leave it in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about my thoughts about LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and maybe the title that we could have won if they actually came to New York. But that's it for today's video, and I'll check you out in the next one. Peace.